Good morning, my name's Ryan Littlestone from Forexflow.live. Today I'm going to talk to you about a pound trade I'm getting into now because we're approaching that big Brexit deadline and the market is tending to get a bit bullish now on the pound at the moment. The dips are being well bought. And the reason that is because a lot of the market thinks now that a hard exit is pretty much off the table. That may or may not be the case, but everything's pointing towards some sort of soft exit. Even if we leave without a deal on the 31st of October, there's still signs that it's possibly going to be managed. So it's not going to be as hard as the market expects. Now, my view for a long while on Brexit has been that there is going to be a solution. There is going to be a deal happening. There's too much at stake for there not to be a deal. And the other side is, even if we go out on WTO rules, is that really a big thing? Is it really going to collapse the economy? Is it going to be a big upheaval for both economies? And the answer pretty much is no. There's going to be some short-term upheaval, obviously, especially in the market. The knee-jerk reaction is probably going to be a bit jerky, but then things will settle down because finally we're potentially over Brexit and now we can move forward. So as we've seen, we spoke about previously that if we look at the chart, and I've got the daily chart for viewing today, we were looking at the 120 area way down when we were down at that sort of area, and how big a level it was, and potentially a break under there would accelerate, but to look for in case it was a fake out and reverse back up. And that's exactly what happened. We got the break under. It got down to sort of the 1960 handle, that sort of level. And then we've been a one-way trip up since then. It's all the way back up. We were testing 126 last week. Now I've decided I'm going to start building a long position in this. And I started in the low 124s, and I'm been building it up. I had a long last week at 125.13. Ran that up to the highs that we got to, knocking some of that out on the way. And I'm building a small position, very small position, because this is still a very volatile currency. It's a very volatile situation. So I'm building very small positions, and I'm happy to build those down to this 120 level again. If we get under 120, the likelihood is that we've got some really big bad news, so I'll be happy to fold it anyway. But in the meantime, I'm happy to stay long and hopefully run this into the Brexit date. As I say, I think that there's going to be a deal on one way or another. The reason for that is we know that Boris is working on something. He's putting forward these thoughts or ideas unofficially, or however you want to call them, to the EU. There's some who are knocking them back, like Ireland. They're knocking all these back and saying they're not concrete proposals. But then we've had Juncker coming out and saying, well, we've had some things in, and so there's movement on a deal working together. So the other side of the coin is that Ireland and the EU, they have to put something in place for this border issue. Irrespective of what the UK does, if we leave on the 31st of October, there has to be something in place on the border, whether that's a hard border or whether they're going to use some form of technology or different mechanics to solve the border issue. Something has to go in. So even if the UK don't put anything in place, the EU and Ireland have to. So again, if they put in something that can potentially solve that issue, under no deal, why can't they use that under the auspices of a deal? So again, it's another factor that's pointing to the case that it's not going to be all bad news when we get to that 31st of October date. So where can we go if there is a deal? Obviously, if there's any signs of a decent deal, the first headlines are going to see the pound jump, and we could be talking anywhere into the 130s on that. Of course, the big hurdle then becomes Parliament and whether it can get through. The way the country is, the way Parliament is, I think any deal that's better than May's deal is going to get is going to be received positively by Parliament. So therefore, that's going to put a tailwind behind the pound as well. And should the best possible solution happen is that there's a deal agreeable on all sides, passes Parliament, then we're going to be hitting some big levels in cable, and that could be anywhere up 134 back towards 140, because there is a big heavy short in the market. And that's going to unwind very, very quickly on a deal. So this is going to be a trade that I'm probably going to talk about over the coming weeks to see how it develops, assess the trade, see what's going on, and we'll watch that and see how we do. And we'll speak of that in next episodes. And so good luck with that.